Hi again, you know who I am, the putting specialist here in the UK, and I'm bringing to you one of the pieces of technical equipment that actually I use in and out of the studio, more out than in, I'll be perfectly honest with you. CAPTO by Precision from Italy, European product, is a fantastic piece of equipment. It allows me to travel, come on, if I can't fit that in a pocket, let alone a rucksack, it allows me to travel with a piece of equipment, tablet, don't need the computer, don't need the TV, comes on a tablet, that's a fish, Apple Play, right, iPad onto the TV, allows me to be able to measure everything that's taking place in the putting stroke. We're able to do this, so if you come for a putting analysis at some point, we'll do base unit here using one of the other products, and then we'll go on to CAPTO. The reason for going on to CAPTO is when we go outside, or if you are going to be travelling in a tournament, and we have baseline measurements off here as well. So we'll do CAPTO measurements in here, as well as the base unit that I have in situ in the studio. But this is versatile and allows me to travel. So, you know, that's the reason why I have more than one analysis equipment available. So what you can see here is a bunch of tiles that tell us what it is that's taking place. You can see here, club face closed by 1.5 degrees. It's not the best read that you'll ever get. Can't put them all correct. I wasn't trying. Ultimately, any of the readings that we've got on here, just to show you exactly what's taking place. You can see the lie angle, lots of different things here, you know, 3D motions, all of those things are measurable. Now we'll come to those in a moment or two because they're working off the tablet which is set up the other side of the room, and that's the projections that we're seeing. What we've got on here though, first and foremost, is the unit that's got to be connected to the club. Here's my putter, and ultimately we need to pop that onto the golf club, so let's pop it on. So much improved connector. I think the guys brought the connector into this new connector into play a couple of years ago now, and it's a much improved connector. I've had mine upgraded. I will also set up on the CAPTO calib tool, which allows us to calibrate that. Just set the face up against the block here, got it nicely set up, and I can establish and make sure that the distance is exactly the same every time. So just slide it out a little bit. Now I would normally set up around 45 centimetres, or just around about 18 inches. I will always go a little bit higher because I do train using the putting board as well, and we do want some data using putting board. Can't use that with the other equipment, so just because of the position where we are setting up. So what we've got here now is the club face is set up nice and square. We've got the base unit sitting on there nice and flat as well, and we've got, that's it, it's good. And then we can go into calibration mode. The benefit, I will do calibration in a moment, but ultimately we're all set to go at that point. Make sure it's nice and secure, and we're going to do a few putts and give you some data back onto that screen. All right, I'll catch you in a minute. Right, okay, so here's one of the features that we've got on CAPTO, which I really like. For all intents and purposes, the swing stroke looks pretty solid, and you know, I'm able to then see from here exactly what I need to see with regards to the stroke. But more importantly is I can actually move around and have a look at the stroke. So, you know, I get a good 3D measurement of what the stroke itself is actually doing. What we've got from here, obviously looking down the line, is a path of club that's a little bit in to out. You can see, have a look on the top there. So I can now pull it around and actually get a really good visual of the putting strokes. A little bit in to out, of course, and then ultimately from there, I'd see where that golf ball's going. I know the club face is a little bit closed, and you can see as it runs through the path of the club, a little bit in to out, on the way through the stroke. So I could work on that, gives us a lot of data, you know, to see what those patterns of movement are really all about. You can see that the lie angle of the club, just pull another one there, the lie angle of the club just changes very slightly at the point of impact, toe being a little bit up in the air. So, you know, these are relative to the start point, which is absolutely fine. I've got no problem, and you know, to a degree, 1 or less than 1 degree, we can actually see that there's, you know, a little bit of error, which of course changes the shaft plane, you know, and may well be something to do with the path factors that go through there. But what we're getting from here is a consistency of pattern of movement. So I can check everything I need to check and see, and then ultimately, if this becomes a consistent pattern, and I'm holding putts at the alarming regularity that I do, you know, then ultimately it isn't a problem for me to be concerned about. So when we look at these platforms here, you can actually see the club face is a little bit closed, nice little D-loft. So I'll get the putter down at around about 1.2, 1.3 degrees of loft at the point of impact. Gives me a lot of data. Sorry, distracted slightly by that noise. Gives me a lot of effective roll, gives me a good skid to roll phase that I'm looking for, so that's absolutely fine. Path of the club, you can see, if we look at track here, a little bit into out, which was absolutely fine. We saw that in 3D. Nothing to worry about, certainly from my point of view, not for me to concern myself about because I'm knocking the putts in, but I would want to see a slightly less error between the club face and the path of the club. So I'm looking to get that number down to less than 1 degree for sure, but I'm really trying to dial it in at under ½ degree. Club face into out, club face slightly closed, path of the club slightly into out, and club face slightly closed, around about 2 degrees of error, which is quite a lot for rolling a golf ball the short distance that we're doing. Not a big deal, but I want to dial that in. So if I was practicing this start line drill, i.e. my Wicks ruler drill, I would probably find quite a few putts starting to sneak off that left-hand side. The great thing is, of course, I can couple this CAPTO unit with the Wicks ruler and get a full view of what's happening when I either roll the ball well or I miss on maybe the left-hand side. Club face slightly closed. 90% of the golf ball is going to start from the club face. So maybe just a little bit too much error for it to roll all the way down the ruler. Maybe we'll give that a go, eh? Ball position. That's an interesting one. So we've hit the golf ball there, just hung on its last edge of the ruler, and yeah, it's gone into the hole. Error on the club face there, quite interesting. Path of the club is sitting at just a little bit into out, just a fraction, 0.2 of a degree, and the club face was 1.4 degrees closed. That's why it's hung on for grim death. Okay, so I can now start to look at that and say, right, okay, we've got a little bit of an error creeping in here. It's telling us that the ball's going to start around about 1 degree left. I'm getting away with it on the ruler a little bit. I know there's 3/4 of a degree of error on here. The reason why I'm getting away with it is because the friction element, or the lack of friction, that's allowing the ball to skid a little bit forward before it starts to grip and then roll off. So, you know, it's probably getting to about here before, you know, sort of a foot or so into the putt before that 1 degree error is kicking in overall. So that's, with knowledge, that's something that I'm aware of. But it's really interesting data because it's starting to tell me, well, it is telling me that, you know, my default habit of having that club face very slightly closed at impact is becoming quite significant. You know, I don't like the fact that it's 1.5 degrees closed. I'm not going to miss putts inside 6 feet with that, but I'm going to miss putts inside 9 feet. You know, or certainly between the 6 and 9 foot mark. So, you know, for me, that starts to just ring a few too many alarm bells, and that's why we do data capture. So, you know, what we get in here is very accurate data. I know the path of the club is improving because I'm focusing on that. So to start with, I've got a little bit of into-out movement. In fact, my putt kernel, let's have a look. It's again, it's a little bit into-out. It's going out to the right. I would say that that's quite evident I'm moving out to stop the ball from going left. Now these are movement patterns, they're behavioural patterns that we will generally put into practice when we are identifying certain errors. So it's things that, like that we are able to start to rectify. The information that I'm getting live captured, this is every single putt, is being measured right here in front of me. So if I can get a club face a little bit more neutral at the point of impact, I can even start to play a little bit with my ball position. So maybe the club face is just starting to close down a little bit because the ball's a fraction too far forward. I've got the see more putter. Is the red dot visible? So, yeah, it was. And here's my default. I know the golf ball gets a little forward. So recognise where your weaknesses are or where your strengths are in those weaknesses. So I know what I do when I get it wrong. I'm now able to start to rectify that. So from there, club face a little bit more neutral. It's just sneaking down that left hand side. Just bugging me now. Little less, the path was good. Okay, so 0.6, that's fine. No problem with that. So I want that club face a little bit squarer. The error's just enough to force it off the line. So let's have a nice neutral club face. There we go. Club face there. Again, just a fraction closed, but the error now much closer to that half a degree. So there's the things that we can work on. We can identify the error and get that absolutely dialed in. So for me, a bit of practice on the ruler, but with CAPTO, I can measure what I'm effectively practicing. I hope you've enjoyed watching a sneak preview into CAPTO and why CAPTO is used at the Andy Gorman Putting Academy, and more importantly, you can see that you can actually get onto it and we can start to dial you in as well. One putt at a time, you can learn how to one putt and improve your scores.